Thank you for visiting the Combs Waterkotte website and our Tax Fraud Defense Lawyer in Missouri website page. Regardless of the crime, we believe everyone is entitled to the best possible legal defense in the state of Missouri. We have created this audio version of our website page to help you better understand our services and protect your future, freedom, and reputation. If you have been charged with tax fraud in the state of Missouri, we can help. Don't face the state and court system alone during your tax fraud charge. Contact one of our Missouri tax fraud defense lawyers today at 314-900-HELP to protect your rights and future. Combs Waterkotte is committed to handling all tax fraud cases with confidential care and understanding. We are not here to judge you. We believe that everyone in Missouri, regardless of the crime they have been charged with, deserves an aggressive legal defense and to have their legal rights protected. With that being said, let's discuss hiring our tax fraud defense lawyers in Missouri and setting up a free consultation with our attorneys. Tax fraud defense lawyers in Missouri. If you're under investigation or have been charged with tax fraud in Missouri, you need a defense team that understands both the law and the complexity of tax reporting. At Combs Waterkotte, our white-collar defense attorneys know how the IRS and Missouri Department of Revenue build their cases, and, more importantly, how to dismantle them. We provide aggressive representation and personalized guidance to protect your reputation, career, and freedom. Tax fraud. Lawyer in Missouri. Tax fraud charges aren't just paperwork problems. They're high-stakes legal battles that can cost you your freedom, your finances, and your future. With the IRS and Missouri authorities cracking down hard on suspected fraud, even an honest mistake can spiral into a serious criminal case. If you're being investigated or accused, now is the time to take control. A seasoned Missouri tax fraud defense attorney can step in early, protect your rights, and help you avoid devastating penalties. At Combs Waterkotte, our experienced criminal defense lawyers are prepared to fight for you in both Missouri state and federal courts. If you're being investigated or charged with tax fraud in Missouri, call 314-900-HELP or reach out online to schedule a free, confidential consultation. What is tax fraud in Missouri? Tax fraud involves willfully falsifying or omitting financial information on tax returns to reduce a tax obligation or increase a refund. These cases are aggressively prosecuted by the Missouri Department of Revenue, IRS, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, and can carry serious penalties. Examples of federal tax fraud include willful tax evasion, illegally underreporting income or inflating deductions, failure to file a return, not filing despite being legally required to do so, false statements on tax returns, misrepresenting financial details, employment tax fraud, misclassifying workers or failing to pay payroll taxes, offshore account concealment, hiding assets in foreign accounts to avoid taxation, fraudulent tax shelters or deductions, abusing legal mechanisms to shield income unlawfully. At both state and federal levels, tax fraud is often investigated for months before charges are filed. If you suspect you're under scrutiny, contact us right away. What is the burden of proof for tax fraud in Missouri? When the Missouri Department of Revenue, IRS, or a federal prosecutor charges you with criminal tax fraud, such as willfully underreporting income, falsifying deductions, or failing to file returns, they must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you knowingly and intentionally violated tax laws and your actions were willful, not just the result of a mistake, negligence, or misunderstanding. This is the highest legal standard in the justice system, but prosecutors often rely on financial records, emails or communications, discrepancies between reported income and actual lifestyle. testimony from accountants or business partners. Why this matters. Understanding the burden of proof is crucial in developing a defense. A tax fraud defense lawyer in Missouri can work to challenge the government's evidence, question their assumptions, and argue for reduced penalties or full dismissal, depending on the facts of your case. If you're under investigation or facing allegations, it's critical to act fast. Your financial future and personal freedom may depend on it. Call 314-900-HELP now or contact us online. How we defend tax fraud cases in Missouri. Our tax fraud attorneys are dedicated to providing fearless, tenacious criminal defense in Missouri. We fight relentlessly to keep your future and freedom intact. Our defense lawyers conduct a full forensic review of the records and filings in question. Challenge the government's assumptions about your financial intent. Work with expert accountants and CPAs to support your defense. Negotiate with federal prosecutors to reduce or dismiss charges. Build a trial-ready defense, protecting your name and freedom in court. Penalties for tax fraud in Missouri. Tax fraud convictions carry severe penalties, which vary depending on the nature and scope of the violation. Possible consequences include federal prison, up to 5 years for tax evasion, plus additional time for related crimes like conspiracy or mail fraud. Fines may reach $250,000 for individuals and $500,000 for corporations. Restitution, full repayment of any owed taxes plus interest and penalties. Forfeiture of assets, seizure of property linked to illegal activity. Permanent criminal record, affecting future employment, professional licenses, and more. If you are under audit or indictment, retaining a dedicated tax fraud lawyer in Missouri can be the difference between acquittal and incarceration. Defenses to tax fraud charges in Missouri. Just because the government accuses you doesn't mean you're guilty. Common defenses to tax fraud include lack of intent. To prove tax fraud, prosecutors must show that you willfully violated the law. But in many cases, what looks like fraud is just a mistake. Missed forms, misunderstood deductions, or confusing tax code. If your actions weren't intentional, that's not fraud. We highlight honest errors and reasonable behavior to protect your future. Weak or missing evidence. The government has to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But tax investigations are often full of holes. Sloppy audits, unreliable testimony, or incorrect assumptions. Our job is to expose the flaws in their evidence and build doubt around every allegation. You were not the one who did it. Sometimes, people are wrongly accused because of stolen identities, data entry mistakes, or third-party misconduct. If someone else committed the fraud in your name, we uncover the truth and fight to clear your name. Good faith compliance efforts. If you worked with a tax preparer, relied on professional advice, or made a genuine effort to correct past filings, those are not the actions of someone trying to cheat the system. We use this documentation to show your commitment to doing the right thing, not committing a crime. Statute of limitations. Tax fraud cases are subject to strict time limits. If the government waited too long to bring charges, we can file to have your case thrown out under the statute of limitations. You were pressured, coerced, or misled. If you were manipulated or pushed into questionable tax behavior by someone else, such as a business partner or government informant, you may have a valid defense. We can argue entrapment or coercion when the facts support it. IRS or auditor made mistakes. Even tax agencies make errors. We carefully examine audits and investigations for signs of procedural failure, data mishandling, or illegal conduct. If the government didn't play by the rules, they shouldn't be able to convict you. Voluntary correction matters. Many people fix tax problems on their own before they ever hear from investigators. If you voluntarily disclosed issues or amended returns through an IRS program, we highlight your proactive actions to push back on criminal charges. How a Combs Waterkotte, Missouri tax fraud lawyer can help. Being accused of tax fraud is not only financially devastating, it threatens your freedom and future. At Combs Waterkotte, our team of experienced white-collar defense attorneys approaches every tax fraud case with urgency and precision. We begin by conducting a detailed review of your financial records, working with forensic accountants and tax experts to uncover errors, gaps, or inconsistencies that may help your case. What can happen if you don't hire a tax fraud lawyer in Missouri? Severe financial penalties and restitution, criminal conviction and time in federal prison, professional license suspension or revocation, loss of business or employment, long-term damage to credit and public reputation, increased vulnerability to additional IRS audits, missed deadlines that can harm your defense, inability to negotiate favorable plea deals or settlements. Why choose Combs Waterkotte for tax fraud? Defense in Missouri. When your finances and freedom are at stake, trust a law firm with the experience and tenacity to fight back. At Combs Waterkotte, we offer decades of experience handling white-collar and federal criminal cases, detailed knowledge of the U.S. tax code and Internal Revenue Manual, successful results in U.S. district courts for the Eastern District of Missouri, access to CPAs, forensic accountants, and federal procedure experts, local knowledge of Missouri prosecutors and judges, client-centered defense backed by resources in Missouri. We treat every tax fraud case as personal. At Combs Waterkotte, you're not just another case file. You're a client whose future we take seriously. Our attorneys offer direct, transparent communication and work with you to build the best possible strategy for your unique financial situation. We also leverage a robust network of forensic experts, investigators, and litigation professionals to mount a thorough and aggressive defense. Contact a Missouri tax fraud lawyer today. Allegations of tax fraud don't have to define your life. Contact Combs Waterkotte today to schedule your free consultation. Call 314-900-HELP or reach out online to speak with a trusted tax fraud lawyer in Missouri and get the defense you deserve.